which of the four fast bowlers would be omitted. And I know that there is much talk that Kemar Roach has a good reputation or good luck or good fortune at this ground in the past. My original decision would have been to have omitted Kemar Roach from this in favor of the two Josephs and Jaden Seals. But I stand to see myself eating pie later on when Kemar Roach does come up and show what he's capable of. So that's the opening salvo. The weather's a little overcast and it's heavy going, which means that the quick bowlers seemingly seem to be getting some movement off the pitch. And we see Mikhail Louis somewhat struggling and rode his luck several times, whereas, of course, Craig Braithwaite, he just simply dug in his usual style and fashion, but disappointment once again for him. Back to you, Junior.
Absolutely. Thank you for your thoughts there, Cricket Hall of Famer Dennis Eade. Honorary Secretary, Mr. Brown, your opening thoughts on Bangladesh Tour of West Indies 2024, first day, first session.
Thank you, Mr. Codlin, and good morning to Mr. Heath and to our viewers and listeners. We have two of the weakest teams in Test cricket playing against each other. West Indies has I would say, a slight edge in that they are playing at home, and their bowling is more experienced and definitely better than Bangladesh's bowling attack. However, we know that the game is not played on paper. You have to go out and prove yourself. And this opening session, first of all, I think the series is an opportunity for the struggling West Indian batsmen who since January, none of whom have averaged over 30 runs per inning in Test cricket. None of them. And the most consistent is Hodge, who I was happy to see them promote in the batting order. He's the only one who has a century in the last 12 months for West Indies. And unfortunately for us, bowlers build pressure. But when you have a batsman building the pressure for the bowlers, it puts the entire team under the gun. And Brathwaite digging in as if he's trying to save the match from the first ball he received. It's really very sad for me to see a Test player bat in that manner opening the innings. We know we have seen batsmen who are very patient and they dig in and everything, but they score runs, and there's nothing stopping you from getting singles. You don't have to have any expansive drives or anything like that. And he's just not batting well at all. In the last 7 Test matches, or all the games for this year, he has averaged 18 runs per inning, and that is simply not good enough for a top-class batsman, much less your captain, who should be leading, not just tactically, but also leading from the front. Because if your other players don't believe you should be in the 11, how can you really and truly expect to motivate them to do well? I don't understand the insistence with him. And if he doesn't come good this series, I cannot see him continuing in the West Indies team. And I'm not pointing all fingers at him, but his performance has been very bad. And somehow he has managed to play 95 Test matches, you know, and the last maybe 25, he probably shouldn't have played them. Not with the way he bats and what his body language out there in the crease. To stick around for all those deliveries and only make 4 runs after 13 overs, that cannot cut it at this level. You have got to get that ball off the square. That being said, Mikael Louis stuck it out, and after 72 deliveries, he has 36 runs on the board. And runs on the board can't be taken off, so I applaud him for batting through the lunch period and sticking it out. And then Hodge, who is slowly emerged as our most consistent test batsman, has come in and helped to right the ship in partnership with Mikael Louis. As my fellow panelists alluded to or said, I am surprised that they went in with the 4 fast bowlers, but maybe it doesn't really matter that much against Bangladesh because you're not going to get a weaker test batting team than Bangladesh. But I wonder if they really picked the 4 fast bowlers because they couldn't pull the trigger on which of the 4 they were going to leave out of the starting 11. And I think that was more their problem than actually the makeup of the unit in itself. And, because I expect them to defeat Bangladesh regardless of the bowling attack. But I think the best thing that they would have gone in with is the spinner, but was to include a spinner. But I think they did not want to pull the trigger as to who they were going to leave out of that starting 11. Thank you, Mr. Codlin.
Thank you for your thoughts, Mr. Honor Secretary. Mr. Yeats, looking at the captain, we have dealt with it in a holistic way against South Africa earlier this year. And in some parts, when the West Indies was in England, what now can Craig Brathwaite do against a team that he has a very good record against? He faced 25 deliveries, only got 4 runs, and he failed yet again. We are waiting until the conclusion of this test match to see if he would come good in the second innings. And I think the stats would have said that he's better in his first innings than in his second. So yet again, history is stuck against him. What can Craig Brathwaite do in the second innings to and against a team that is known to score runs against? His highest score is 214 against this Bangladesh team. What is the way forward for Craig Brathwaite as a West Indies batter first? And regardless of what we are seeing, Kevin Hodge and Mikaela Louis will weather the storm, and we hope they do. And if they do weather the storm, it will be easier for batting thereafter. And so if the West Indies even go on to win this game, but Craig Brathwaite don't make any runs, what is your expectation after this 2-match test series, seeing what you have seen so far from Craig Brathwaite?
Well, Craig's position in the West Indies side is definitely up for consideration. He has remarkably failed to produce much or many runs in the past several series. I suspect one way he might attempt to remediate himself would be to relinquish the opening position and maybe bat in the middle order to try and get back his mojo, perhaps, for want of a better word, because obviously he struggles. He scored 4 runs in 38 balls, Mr. Codlin, and that in those 38 balls, he struggled many of those balls. So what he needed to be doing would be playing cautiously, but looking to push for the singles and taking the nervousness out of his batting. But his position always has been to go in and sit on the bowling, trying as if he's trying to dig in. And the only place to dig in really in a test series is in the middle order when your side has already shown a lack of ability to stay there. So I think that he might do some remedial action by dropping himself down the order and coming in maybe down at number 5 or number 6 and shuffle the batting lineup, because otherwise I don't see that he'll be able to continue on performance making the West Indies test side.
Yeah, and Mr. E, Phil Simmons, that has intimate knowledge of these players. He was the head coach a year ago. The last time Banganish was here, he was the coach of West Indies. And do you think that he played a part in them finding out the weakness and exploiting the weakness of Craig Brathwaite so far?
Well, I'm not sure that it's the coach's decision or advice that's really doing it. Craig Brathwaite has not changed his style and form of batting in many series. And it was very obvious for those who are doing their statistics and check, and those who follow the game closely will know very well that he has weaknesses that can be exploited. And Phil Simmons may have hinted at that to the Bangladesh team, but nonetheless, I suspect it wasn't really a call for Phil Simmons. It was just a matter of watching and looking at the statistics, and you can see that Brathwaite does tend to have that slow start and that inability to get any type of aggressiveness inside of his play. If you look at Mikhail Louis, although he played and missed in one or two situations, Mikhail Louis does make the effort when he put bat on ball. He does do that with some vigor and some strength, showing that he's willing to push hard to get a run. He made one bad shot just before the lunch session ended, came on, and he was fortunate, and you could see his reaction that he recognized that he was a little slow to make up his mind about what he intended to do with that rising delivery. Nonetheless, I think Craig's days are possibly numbered unless he can pull some ginormous effort in the second innings. But even then, it makes me wonder if he can actually remediate himself.
Sustain.
Okay.
But, yeah, it's been a while now since Craig Brathwaite of his farm is waning. Mr. Brown, West Indies at lunch after 23 overs, 50 for the last of two. We have talked about Craig Brathwaite, but Casey Carty and Michaela Louis himself. Is it a lack of intent or the discipline of the Banganishi bowlers?
The Bangladesh bowling attack is very inexperienced. And I think that they bowled quite well, all things being considered. I think it's more a reflection on the ability of our batsmen. And as I said, when your captain is at the other end, struggling to get the ball off the square, it's with these young players. Mikhail Louis is a young player,
Yeah.
and he needs example. He needs to see his captain take the bowling by the scruff of the neck and not dominate it per se, but be on top of it, to
Yeah.
set an example for you. And then when he gets out after struggling like that, can you imagine what's going through the mind of Casey Carty watching this going out? He's figuring this wicket is tough. It's the bowling is excellent. What am I going to do to score runs? Because he sees his captain out there struggling. Whether or not is his captain, yes or no, he sees the other batsman out there struggling, the most experienced batsman in the team. And he's going to wonder what is going on. So you get the mind games being played, and that's why you have to be careful who you put out there to bat and what example it is that they are setting for the incoming batsmen if those batsmen are watching the game and what it is doing to their mind to see the batsman struggling. So I give Louis a lot of credit for batting with Brathwaite and ignoring to a great degree what the captain was presenting to him by way of example. Carty came in and struggled also, and that pressure that was built up, he couldn't get off the mark. And in trying to get off the mark, he closed the face of his bat too early and had a very, very soft dismissal. But it's the pressure that was there that had built up from before, giving the Bangladeshi bowlers confidence to say, okay, we have them. They're not hitting boundaries. They can't do anything. Let us go after them.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And Mr. Heath, Kevin Hodge coming out looking very positive. Are you surprised that he was elevated ahead of Alec Attorneys um, in the batting order? Did the century that he got in the previous series before that would have played a part in him coming ahead of the out of form Alec Attorneys?
Hodge has picked up where he left off in the previous matches. He obviously feels more confidence with batting with Mikhail Louis than I'm sure he did batting with, Craig Brathwaite if Brathwaite was still there. Clearly, Louis has set that tone, that pattern where his aggressiveness, and I don't mean carelessness, is aggressive stroke play when he does make contact with the ball, sets a tone and show to Carty Hodge what can be done if you put your mind and focus on the game in front of you. The bowlers are currently moving it a little bit with the heavy atmosphere, but it's not something that you cannot counteract. And if you play carefully, you can certainly be pushing through the infield to make the single and keep the ball run. 2 runs and over is somewhat pitiful because we should be able to push for the single and make that at a minimum 4 runs per over. 2 is somewhat, off-putting and definitely not what I'd expect to see. Nonetheless, in the after lunch period, I expect to see that Louis consolidates himself with capable support from Hodge. And I'm putting my money on Mikhail Louis to shine in this particular match because he does have that temperament and he's a thinking batter. And I think that we should see him do very well with the support of Hodge. So these two are due for a very dynamic partnership, Mr. Cotley.
Yeah, and Mr. Brown, in the first session, Michaela Louis held the strike for most of the time than Craig Brathwaite. So you wonder if somebody were to get out, it would have been Michaela Louis, but definitely Craig Brathwaite is out of form because usually when he's in form, he would have normally out the block very quick, taking on the Bangladeshi bowler. Because against England, you could see his positive intent, when England was here for the previous test series in the Caribbean, not in England, but in the Caribbean, that we beat them 1-0. Craig Brathwaite making 200s in that series. You could see when he was out there the intent, but you're not seeing it in these last few series. And with Michaela Louis taking most of the strike, because Craig Brathwaite Ungle faced 38 deliveries, while Michaela Louis, who is there a bit longer now, faced 72 deliveries, 20 since the departure of Craig Brathwaite. And so it tells you that Michaela Louis, if one were to get out, it should have been Michaela Louis. But because of the lack of confidence, the lack of trust, Craig Brathwaite had to go. And we must not forget as well the lone warm up game, the 2 day warm up game, Sunday and Monday of this week, that Craig Brathwaite made an absolute duck in that game as well.
Yes, and Brathwaite again. When both of them were out there, it was Lowy 30, 43 deliveries, and Brathwaite 38. And again, it shows that thank God Brathwaite didn't face more deliveries, because we would not have reached 50 for the lunch period.
Yeah.
You know, so thank God he didn't. And again, it shows you that the batsman who should be acting in the senior role, taking on the bowling,
Yeah.
facing most of the deliveries, the captain again failed to even failed to even lead from that perspective. Because when you have a senior batsman and a junior batsman, you expect the senior player to try to rotate the strike so that he can take the brunt of the bowling attack. And Brathwaite did not really want any of it, because his confidence is low. And you look at the difference with him and, let's say, Hodge. Hodge comes in, he knows he's the only centurion in the past 12 months for the West Indies. He knows he has scored the most runs for the West Indies in the last 12 months. Not at a very great average, but it is better than anybody else in the team.
Yeah.
So he has that confidence, knowing that I am the best of this bunch. And they have promoted me to put me up there to get on top of the bowling. And he came in with that mind, with that attitude. And this is to tell you that there's no greater confidence boost than performance.
Absolutely.
When you perform and make runs, you will be more confident than if you don't make runs. And Craig Brathwaite is one of these players now. And I hope I talk him into making runs, because I want him to do well. He's representing the team. But we can't keep carrying him like this. Just cannot keep doing it.
Yeah, there has to be some remedy. Hall of Famer Eat, when you look back at the previous series before this, albeit the T20, but West Indies in a spot of bother, the captain Rodman Powell coming out and you know have his struggles against leg spin, but we have seen him dominate in the previous series. Um, it tells you that a captain must lead from the front, and Craig Brathwaite in these last few series is found lacking, and how disturbed are you by Caribbean people calling for Rodman Powell head and giving Craig Brathwaite a free pass when he faced 38 deliveries in this test match against a team that he averaged the most against? 3 of his 12 test centuries came against Bangladesh, with his lone double century against Bangladesh. How defeating is this for Craig Brathwaite to be getting a free pass? None of the commentators call him out. None of the commentators speak about his struggles. Everybody is afraid to touch Craig Brathwaite. Um, do you think these measures are justified?
Well, a good indication of a skipper in the side is one who can come in and take charge and take command. And as you mentioned with Rovman Powell, in contrast with Brathwaite, Powell comes in the middle order, and very invariably his team is struggling to survive. And he put his captain hat on and he performed like we expect, or as we would expect the captain to perform. And in this, certainly the last two series, we've seen Powell demonstrated unhesitatingly that he knows exactly what needs to be done, when it needs to be done, and he does step up to the plate. Brathwaite, as a captain, supposed to be leading from the front. He opens the innings, and everyone below him look to him because of his experience, his age, and his past performances as someone who should be leading the team, not someone who's reticent to come forward and actually play like a captain. If you look at his performance with Mikhail Louis, you would certainly believe that Louis was the senior player out there, because Louis performed with that type of confidence that is so lacking in Brathwaite. And, we have Athena who has opened the innings in the past. So quite frankly, I don't know, they should seriously consider, maybe juggling the batting lineup, putting Athanase up there to open with Louis, and dropping Brathwaite down in order for him to get his confidence back. Failing that, I have a feeling that Brathwaite may well be looking at the tail end of his captaincy in the West Indies side. Why there are certain call for and against Powell and Brathwaite, it's not something that I can explain. But nonetheless, we can see that as far as captaincy is concerned, Powell has certainly shown that he has the quality, the confidence, and the ability to lead the team, as opposed to his, dare I say, counterpart on the test side right at this moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, Michaela Louis, 72 deliveries after facing 72 deliveries, will take back strike after the resumption of play, and he's on 36. And Kevin Hodge, that is there with him, faced 20 deliveries and will be at the non-striker end at the resumption of play. There he's on 10 so far. Craig Brathwaite, opening the batting, he's the West Indies captain. He made LBW Tatskim Mohammed, and he was LBW for 4, and his strike rate was 10.53 runs per over. And the players are now taking back the field, and that will end our coverage on our lunchtime show here. We will be back tomorrow at lunchtime to review once again the morning session, and also we'll be back at the close of play to continue our coverage. But at the moment, Michaela Louis is 38 from 73 deliveries, 5 boundaries to him now. The West Indies 52 for the last of 2 after 23.1 over. Hall of Famer Dennis E., thank you for joining us. And Honorary Secretary of the Cricket Hall of Fame, Mr. Brown, thank you for joining. And from all of us here at West Indies Cricket Development Academy, please join us back tomorrow, and please enjoy the rest of the day, and we wish the West Indies well. Goodbye for now.
That's a wrap.